What's good, everyone, and welcome back to Kaya's Commentary. And if you're new here, welcome to Kaya's Commentary. This is a podcast that offers commentary on pop culture topics, real world issues, anything in between, and maybe even some advice every now and then. Before we get down to it, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Kaya R. Pennington, and you can follow Kaya's Commentary on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Kaya's Commentary. Also, be sure to hit the follow/subscribe button and the bell so you get notified when new videos drop. With that, let's kick it into our first segment, What's in the News? I avoided it last week, but apparently I cannot avoid it this week. Biden has officially dropped out of the 2024 presidential campaign. He is no longer seeking re-election. Kamala Harris has instead been endorsed, and he dropped out this past Sunday. I'm recording Tuesday to release on Friday, and I believe she already has collected enough of the funds to secure that nomination. But with that comes the moral superiority people, because with this switch comes the increased shout of, hey, get out and vote. I personally think that she can do it. But also, we truly are about to see just how much America, and not just white America, hates black women. So yeah, we gotta get out and show out. But the people who had a problem with Biden have a problem with her, and hey, that's fair because she was his VP. That was one of my issues with a lot of like official Democrats like shouting he has to go, because it's like, at this point, who are you gonna put in his place? Biden, she's his VP. I'm not saying that she aligned with everything that he said or did, but she's his VP. She aligned with a lot of it. But that's where we are now. So I support it, and I think that she can get it. But I want to talk about the people who personally I feel are performative, because I feel like a lot of people honestly aren't. What's happening in Palestine isn't like a true red line for you. You're just using that as a moral superiority complex, and honestly, that's quite crappy of you to do. Well, she's still a war criminal. Don't forget, she's a war criminal. Point me to a politician that ain't. Or rather, to one that hasn't said or done some form of crime against humanity once they got sworn in. Well, she's not the only one. We have third party options. One, are they truly a viable option? Are they truly viable options? Are they even on the ballots in a lot of the states? Do half of Americans even know their names? And yes, it is partially up to us to do our own due diligence, because you should always scope around, hey, who's running for president? What are their views? How are the You should always like look that up and research that. But also, I want to remind y'all that it was y'all who repeatedly said that Biden had to earn our vote. The fear of Trump alone and fascism alone couldn't sell it. Biden had to earn that. And you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So let's keep that same energy for the third party. Why did I only hear Kennedy, who's an independent, commercial for the first time on the radio 2.5, 3 months ago, and then I haven't heard or seen anything else from him? And that may not fully be his fault. Maybe it's like restrictions in my state, but I think that's illegal. But maybe that's what's happening, because I'm not saying they're not campaigning, but it's like, you see like two-party people, even people who don't secure the nomination. You see these two-party candidates. Where are the other candidates? Chase Oliver, who's a libertarian, which is a name I saw for the first time while doing research for this segment. He's right now, his last campaign holding was like July 2nd, but as of right now, according to Ballotpedia, he's only on the ballot in like 5 states. Maureen Williamson, who's a Democrat, has repeatedly withdrawn from the race, but as of July 2nd, according to Ballotpedia, she's back in. Cornel West, who I had heard was running, but it was just one of those things that like I heard so quickly it just like left my brain. I forgot all about it. He was running under the Green Party, but that was after he claimed the People's Party candidate. But I think as of right now, he's an independent. He's also only on the ballot in about 4 states, according to Ballotpedia, none of which are mine. To the individualist, Kennedy is a conspiracy anti-vaxxer and a conspiracist overall. Checks may be likable, but even in certain interviews, I've seen the interviews say, hey, you have no chance of winning. And he's like, yeah, but it's more about getting the Libertarian Party attention, which may have been helpful pre-Trump or well post-Trump, but not now. Not splitting the vote now. And obviously, you say splitting the votes, like you assume that they automatically might have went towards Biden or Democrat. That's obviously not true, but for a lot of people, it is. And honestly, likability means something, but not much, because most people supported Bernie Sanders. 2020 primaries, I supported him up until like he was no longer a viable option. Then he's an independent, by the way. He leans more with the Democrats, but he's an independent. But he had people rocking with him up until he said Israel, while destructive and shouldn't go to war against the Palestinians because of the loss of human life, did have a right to defend themselves against Hamas. I've even on this channel said that Hamas um, could be declared a terrorist organization or looked at as a terrorist organization, and they are very restrictive to the Palestinians. But he said this about like 3-4 months ago, and at this point, it's no longer the Israel-Hamas war. Like, that's not what they're doing. He got people mad with that. They might not be mad at him anymore about it, but like, likability doesn't mean that you won't mess up, slip up, and say something that shows something. Wes, a philosopher, has said things that certain people might deem controversial, but instead of like pointing to those, because I actually studied Wes in my philosophy class, but that was back in 2020, so I'd have to really like pull out my notes to like go in there, but that's not my point. My point isn't like to pick apart and tear him down like that. So instead, I'll point to his lack of national support. Many I've seen as I was doing my research for this segment didn't consider him a viable option and instead an election spoiler. Also, sure, the things that he sells sounds great, from the economy to disability rights to stronger hate crime bills against the Alphabet Gang. Is that a slur? I hope that's not a slur. I'm part of the Alphabet Gang, y'all. I hope it's not a slur. To the BIPOC community, to free tuition for a community and state colleges and whatnot. Yeah, it all sounds great, but it also sounds like a politician, even though he's never like officially held public office. It sounds like a lot of the promises that certain Democrats make and then can't always uphold, or not to the point that not to the level that we wish, because they don't have enough people in Congress to support them. Because people don't want to vote locally. You only want to vote every 4 years, and then bitch and moan about how stuff is not turning around like you should. But then your mayors and your senators and your governors are all people who oppose the things that your president, who said they were going to do. Vote locally, people. Vote locally. Williamson allegedly is abusive to her staff, although she has denied that. Well, what does that have to do with her politics? I don't know. If she treats her political staff like trash, I can't say that's a great representation of what she may or may not do in anger in the presidency. But I said all that not to like pick apart their faults and pull it out, but to say that they all have their issues or are just looked at as like unviable options. So why are y'all so insistent to bear down on the one that is? Now, there may be viable options for like vice presidency, but like presidency is looking like a stretch. It's looking like a stretch. So again, why are we bearing down on the one that actually could partially help fascism, at the very least, not fully win out? Because she supports genocide, and if you vote for her, you do too. I want y'all to truly hear, because it's not that simple. It's never that simple. So I want you to truly hear what you are asking of me, a black queer woman in America, what you are asking me to do. You are asking me to put my rights on the line to separate with those across the sea, because that's where it's at. Because if Red wins, then I have to split my attentions between speaking for the Palestinians and then fighting for the right to speak for them. Who is that helping? Truly. And no, that's not selfish to say that the price of Project 2025 is too high a price for me to pay. I've seen people be like, guys, I can't really deal with like Project 2025. Don't fight me. Don't fight me. Like, why are you clenching up? Why are you doing that? It's not selfish to say that you have to fight against that, even if it means the lesser evil wins. No, things won't immediately get better for them overseas, and that's fair to say that just because things don't get worse don't mean that they will get better. That's fair. But it's also fair to say that things will get worse for everyone if Red wins, and I'm not willing to let my rights be snatched under my feet to quite frankly satisfy those who use a genocide as a moral superiority complex, because that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing. Because don't mistake me, I get that if that being the red line for Palestinian Americans and others doing like the primaries and whatnot. But to the ones living in this utopia of, well, we'll let Trump have it and then do the cleanup after he's out because, the politicians work for us and that'll show the Dems that they have to earn our vote. We don't just always go their way. Listen, I don't know what game you think you're playing at, but we are not playing the same one. We are not playing the same game. He has already said that he won't let it go. He'll enact political violence. He's very much a part of Project 2025. Oh, and not to mention part of the reason that y'all dislike Biden so much is because he couldn't clean up Trump's last 4 years and his 4 years. So I don't know where you're getting this idea that it'll be cleaned up right after. Like, not for a long time. It won't. And as to like, they work for us, yeah, ideally, but not in reality, at least not to this idealistic level that y'all are piping. Like, that's never been the case. If it had been, Palestinians in general would have got the aid that they needed a long time ago. Slavery would have ceased to exist at the minute America's government was created. Because, hey, scientifically, a lot of these men were men of enlightenment, so scientifically, we're humans, so therefore, we get the benefit of those humans' rights. Ideally, black people today wouldn't still be suffering the effects of slavery and Jim Crow, or at least not to this level. But realistically, that is where we are, and we didn't give up when the options seemed low. I want to remind y'all, people fought for our rights to vote. That is why I'm so hard pressed on voting. People fought and were beaten and died for my right to vote, for their own right to vote, just so that they could go up into that booth. That's not, I'm not trying to fearmonger or guilt trip. That's just my mind personally. Like, people went through a lot of stuff just so I could have the right to vote. And not even on, like, not just women, because women and, like, white women and black women got the right to vote at 2 different times. So you have to fight against these people who aren't fighting for your rights, and then fight against these people who don't think you had. Like, people fought and died for my right to vote. And they did that in a time where what it meant to be a Democrat and a Republican had very recently switched. A lot of back in the day, way back when, a lot of black people did vote Republican, because when they had got the right to vote and all this, they knew that that's where the selling point was. Like, they were making stuff happen. And then it switched up, and they decided, hey, we can get more alignment with the Confederates. And then the Democrats was like, hey, well, we can get more alignment with the black people. And so it had very recently switched up, and they still fought for the lesser evil, with the acknowledgement that terms had switched up, and moralities and whatnots had switched up. They still fought for the lesser evil to get those rights, to make sure those rights were upheld. I don't know why y'all think the game has changed. And it's sad. It's sad that it hasn't. And you can acknowledge that, but be realistic about where we are. Not voting right now isn't going to set the course for a new age of government, at least not in the way that y'all think it will. Modern politics as we know it may crash and burn, and sure, it definitely could stand to change. But it's not going to change in favor of what you're pushing. It'll be in favor of something far more sinister that will take years upon years to undo, and it's not something that I personally think the next 3 generations, mine included, will have the benefit of enjoying. And sure, let it burn for future generations, but honestly, I'd rather put in the work to make it better right now during my lifetime. And if you're not going to attempt that, you're just going to throw your vote to the side just for the ability to say you have some misguided moral superiority, I personally don't want to hear you complain when the effects of that blow back on you. As they will. Like, it still affects you. Well, I'm gonna move, I'm gonna do this. You're gonna move where? You're gonna do where? Racism, misogyny, misogynoir, homophobia, it exists everywhere in the world. America has a problem indeed, but America and the United Kingdom has set the course of nations as far as, like, systematic injustices. And you're not gonna undo that within these next few years. You wanna break the system? Well, that starts here. That starts with voting. Actually, it starts with getting more involved than a lot of y'all are, because a lot of y'all are not involved. A lot of y'all are keyboard activists and revolutionists. Because outside of that, you are not an activist. You are not a revolutionist. You are just a butthole who thinks you have a one-up on others because you decided to ignore the plights of the minorities around you, being complicit in their rights erasures, because you're okay with paying that price if it meant that you get to be seen in a savior complex, savior life by anyone else. But you didn't vote for them? Huh, yeah, you rock. Just 2 dumb idiots telling each other, exactly. Just know you don't get to exempt yourself just because you want to. You will still be complicit in someone's rights being stripped away by discouraging others to vote and willingly letting it burn. Not because it's a red line for you. But because your moral superiority upper hand. Because you think that's going to give you something. And that's not fear mongering. That's just where we are. I'm not even solely like saying, oh, we should align ourselves with the Democrats. Look, if an independent, like I said, I was for Bernie. I was for Bernie in 2020. I was low key for Warren too. Like, but she's a Democrat. But like, if they were viable options, I'd be for them. I'm not saying you have to solely, but I am saying be realistic about where we are. This person who is going to have all these ideals that you think, you're living in La La Land. You have the right to do whatever you want to do with your vote. If you decide you're going to do third party right now, fine. But know that is splitting the vote. Just so you can say I didn't vote for the Democrats, that's splitting the vote. That is a vote for Trump, because these people aren't even on the ballot in a lot of the states. And you know that. You know that they have no chance, that their chances are very slim. And you're doing it not because it's a red line for you, because you think this is what activism is, and it's not. It's not. This is not how you get involved in politics, not that way. That's, again, not fear mongering. That is just where we are. That's just where we are. You will still be complicit in someone's rights being lost if you let fascism win here. That's just my little spill about how we should get out and vote. I that's all I got. That's all I'm gonna say. We don't have to agree on everything. We should be respectful to each other. With that, let's kick into our second segment, something a lot more upbeat. What's on TV, where I give my commentary on a TV show I've seen. Today's show, ABC's Still Star-Crossed. I am very late to this show. This show, it's very important that it is based, to say that it is based on a YA adaptation of the characters of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. But it is based on a YA, a young adult. People's biggest complaint with this was that it felt so soapy and teen, and that's the point. That is the point. It's something that I didn't watch as it aired, because they said it aired on, they said it aired on Monday, but I remember it airing on like Sunday at 8 or 9. I've always been an early to rise, early to bed kind of girly, so it was one of those things that I rooted from like afar. It's like, hey, yeah, keep going, keep going, keep going. I'm rooting for you. And then I just didn't hear anything about it, and it's like, ooh. But I went back and watched this in like a day, because it only has 7 episodes, and I hate myself for waiting so long. If I said that this walked so Bridgerton could run, then what? Then what? Because this is a Shondaland production. So let's get into it. It picks up right with the deaths of Romeo and Juliet. We see their very quick love and deaths in the prologue. But whereas the lesson of destruction of old feuds was learned in the original, here it is not. And honestly, as stupid humans we are, that tracks. Instead, the feud continues to grow, with both sides blaming the other for the death of their only heirs. That tracks a lot. That tracks. Enter Rosalind Capulet. She was a lady in her own right, but when her parents died, her uncle, Juliet's dad, takes her and her sister Livia, and they become servants. Now, Mama Capulet dislikes them because she low-key wanted to marry their dad, but she married Juliet's dad because he was the one with the title, unlike his brother, so the sisters remind her of that. Also enter Benvolio Montague, now the sole heir to the Montague name and fortune. Now, the prince, who is new to the throne, so his father died, and his sister was low-key involved in the politics, especially when their father sent the prince away because he and Rosalind had a little fling. But now he's back, and he's trying to show that Verona is united to the other regions in Italy and surrounding areas who would eagerly overthrow them. So, to do that, a Capulet and a Montague are to be married. If only Romeo and Juliet had lived. Instead, we have Rosalind and Benvolio. Now, obviously, they dislike each other for their family, but we later found out that Rosalind had a dislike also due to her father being slain by a Montague, but not Benvolio. That's not the story we're telling here. So she's very much not thrilled when she learns the news, and she leaves the room. They've both been summoned to the palace, and so she runs out of the throne room. Now the prince goes after her, and he's like, I would never do anything to hurt you or put you in an awkward situation, but you did. Tell me what you want me to do. Tell me what to do to make you happy. And then they share a kiss, and he kind of hints that she won't have to marry Benvolio, but when Benvolio finds them, now they don't know if he saw the kiss or not, but he finds them and they head back to the throne room. He certifies the marriage. She's like, yeah, the marriage will still proceed. What did we just talk about, man? Rosalind's like, yo, what did we just talk about? So the family, they have a small dinner to announce it, and tensions rise with the prince having to show a sign of brute force, a fork to the hand of a Montague. And the sister is proud. Princess is proud. She's not on some evil Lady Shakespearean stuff. She just knows that they have to show strength to get control. So the prince, again, after this dinner, he and Rosalind have a little moment, and he low-key promises Rosalind that he won't make her marry Benvolio, and she stays in his room. They don't do anything, but she sleeps on his bed. He sleeps in a chair. And so she stays the night with him, but the prince, finds the stakes to be too high when he is made aware that someone has hacked Romeo's body up. So he has it sewn back together and entombed earlier so that no one will see. So then he goes back and again demands that she marries Benvolio. Like, you will marry him or I will ruin your name and tell everybody that you stay here and you my mistress and whatnot. And she's like, yo, What did we just talk about? So that's happening now. Also, Paris is in the story. You know, he was Juliet's betrothed. He and Romeo duke it out, and Romeo takes him out. Here, he survives the stabbing, and he is being tended to by Lady Capulet, Livia, and Nurse, and they do bring him back from the brink of death. And he and Livia seem to be getting quite close rather quickly. Rosalind and Benvolio begin to play the part that they must to bring about peace, but at their official wedding announcement ceremony, a wagon is blown up, so that it's interrupted, and a masked figure um, is the culprit. We don't really know who it is because a chase ensues. But an ambassador is taken out. Benvolio and Rosalind go after him and find it to be someone from the Montague fame. But they also realize that someone else is behind it, because if it were just an attack from Montague against Capulet or one or the other, why would they hide their face? Also, the Montague was like, this wedding will never happen. He won't allow it. So we get the knowledge that there's a third party that's causing tension between Capulet and Montague, and if they find him, the families will have a common enemy and they won't have to marry. So then begins the search for this deceptive person, and we, the audience, figures out that it's none other than Paris, with the help of Lady Capulet. She was really on some Lady Macbeth type stuff up until the end. So she believes that Juliet was persuaded to take the poison, and she believes that Rosalind had something to do with it, so she's out for her. She enlists Paris because he's loyal to the Capulet fam. So, and Livia is just collateral damage. So he's going to usurp the prince, and there's going to be a ruler who in favor of the Capulet, but they also need like a Capulet bride to certify and add some type of legitimacy to it. And you have a Capulet on the throne and a Capulet ally on the throne. But like I said, Livia is collateral damage. She don't know nothing about this. Paris is using her, although it is hinted that he really does care for her. He's like, she's really a sweet girl to Lady Capulet, and Lady Capulet's like, you gonna make her a princess of your own nation and of this one. She be aight. She be aight. Benvolio is framed for murder of a Capulet Paris is doing, and the law is very clear. If one were to take out the other, quick beheading. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So he runs, but he has nowhere to go. His favorite lady friend has sold him out. Friar Lawrence won't help him. He's in the story as well. He's feeling very remorseful, but he's also scared because Nurse has confessed that Lady Capulet is scheming, so he about to run too. And Lord Montague, low-key, has always had a disdain for Benvolio, and we'll later find out why that is. So Benvolio goes to Rosalind, the only person who knows that he is innocent, and asks her to run with him. And it's actually low-key cute. Like, it's not even low-key. It's cute. It's cute. The desperation, Miss Rhymes knows how to pick her men. That she does. So Rosalind does go with him so they can try and clear his name. She does leave a note for Livia, but Lady Capulet finds it and hides it and then screams for help, saying that Rosalind has been kidnapped by the Montague, adding more tension between the two families. So now the whole kingdom is looking for them because the prince is in love with her, but the princess is trying to remind him, hey, the politics, an ambassador was taken out, so now we have to appease his gross brother, and his gross brother wants to take the princess's virtue, but she finds a way out of that. She finds out that his royal advisor, it's a woman, and she's just so like, she's like, oh yeah, go ahead and whore yourself out. Like, you thought I was gonna help you, woman to woman? Like, it's like, girl, ew. But Princess finds out that the advisor, is selling secrets to one of their small town enemies, and so she threatens to tell the ambassador's brother, and that kind of gets her out of it. She's like, talk him out of trying to take my stuff, and also talk him into signing this treaty that says he will forever be our ally and provide our backing should we need it. She does that. She gets that. So they find Rosalind and Benvolio. They find Friar Lawrence, and he tells them about Lady Capulet and Paris's schemes and how Livia is caught up in it. So Rosalind decides she has to go back and save her sister, and Benvolio attempts to go with her. But the guards catch up to them, and then she says she'll give herself up so that he can run away while she tries to explain things to the prince to clear Benvolio's names. The guards instead take her to Paris, where he threatens Livia and her and tells her to lie on Benvolio or he'll take actions against Livia. Benvolio does come for Rosalind. He didn't really want to split up anyway. He was gonna go back to help her, at least escort her to the city and then leave. And so he didn't really want to separate. So he's like, nah, I gotta go back. But before he can find Rosalind, the prince finds him. And then she and Paris come out, where she's forced to go along with his lies, much to the dismay of Benvolio. This man was gagged. He talking with his eyes, and he sold it. He sold it. He sold that for me. So he's locked up, and Rosalind reunites with her sister, but she doesn't have much time to really talk to her. She also does tell the prince everything, but he doesn't want to hear it. He's also like, "Oh, you used my feelings for you to get an audience alone with me to like plead for his case." So at this point, I guess we're supposed to be believing that like he believes that Rosalind truly cares for Benvolio in such a way, and that makes him jealous. So he summons Benvolio to try and get him to confess his crimes to Rosalind so that she will give up her crusade, but Benvolio refuses. And I find it funny because like he's like attacking Benvolio, punching him. So he goes to punch him a second time, and Benvolio like stops his hand. He's like, "I'm not gonna hit you back, but you ain't gonna hit me back either." Like it's to me that was low key funny. That was a lot funnier than it should have been. So Rosalind tells Benvolio, she comes to him in the jail, and he's like, "I should have known better than to trust the Capulet." She's like, "Yo, come on, ain't nothing changed, okay? He threatened my sister. We would all been taken out if I told the truth right then, but I told the prince now. He just needs proof. So I gotta go get the nurse, because the nurse told Friar Lawrence, so she's the only other person that will tell the truth." But Paris takes her out because Paris has spies in the house, and so one of the servants hears Rosalind and the nurse talking, and so she tells Paris, and Paris takes out the nurse before she can tell the prince. And he and Olivia, who still doesn't know who he really is or what she's dealing with, they elope. Also, by this time, Lady Capulet is feeling really remorseful. Lord Capulet has told her that he's seen Juliet's spirit and that she has warned him to beware of something. We don't know what. But Lady Capulet's like, okay, well, she's taking it really hard that her only daughter is gone. So she goes to her tomb and lights all the candles and like, "Will you come visit me? Visit me." And instead of visiting her, all the candles blow out and it's really eerie and creepy. And so Lady Capulet takes this to mean that Juliet is disappointed in her, and she reveals her crimes to Lord Capulet, and it's like, "We have to tell the prince, we have to beg for leniency." So they're on their way to do that, but then they are stopped. They cannot leave the house by Paris's spies. He no longer trusts them. He has grown above that power. So Rosalind tells Benvolio of her failure, but he comes to terms with it, like if his death brings about unity, because both houses, although Montague was hesitant, they agree to cease fighting forevermore with the death of Benvolio. If that is what it takes to bring about unity, then he can live with it. Or not. Yeah. And then they kiss, and it's like, oh, it can also be taken as like a kiss of desperation, giving a dying man a last bit of comfort. Um, because he's like, don't tarnish your name for me. I'm a lost cause. I saw you and the prince together. You love him, he loves you. That is where your heart lies. That is who you trust. Go be happy with him. And she's like, "I won't be happy with like your death, and I trust you." And then they kiss, and it's like, aw. Later, Benvolio's aunt comes to visit him, and she's like mad at Lord Montague for kicking her out. So she tells Benvolio about how they both schemed to murder his father, and that's why Lord Montague has such a disdain for him, even though it was Lord Montague who kept Benvolio alive because Benvolio was a child. So Lord Montague later comes to visit him, and that's where Benvolio confronts him, and he's like, "If it means anything, I am sorry about how I treated you." And Benvolio is like, "No, that's not a comfort at all. Not at all." And they end on a sour note, and it's after this that Montague signs the agreement. Livia finally catches up to everything. She finds Rosalind's note and realizes that Paris sucks, and he's trying to usurp the prince, but they're married now, and she gave herself to him. And so she's like, "I don't want no part in your schemes, your treachery. I want to go home." He cares for her, but he's like trying to plead with her, and he gets to that point where he's like at his wits' end of pleading. And so she's like, "I want to go home." And he's like, "Mantua," which is his home. He's like, "Is your home now, wife. Like, you rocking with me no matter what. Now you're mine. I own you." So she always wanted to be married because that's how she was going to rise back in her station. I don't think she wanted it that way, though. The next day, Benvolio is seconds away from being beheaded, head on a block and everything, much to Rosalind's dismay. She was lost in the crowd. She should have been like at, to me, the stage, the center of the stage, eye contacts. So like one final glance for him, or at least somewhere near than she was. But the prince stops it because he knows Benvolio is innocent. He doesn't want to hurt Rosalind. He sees Rosalind in the crowd and how she's so upset. So he's talking about, "Hey, this man is innocent. We're going to believe his innocence." But before he can finish his speech, he is shot with an arrow in the chest, or like in the shoulder area, by one of Paris's men, and chaos ensues. And as we leave Prince, he's still alive. Don't know if he's gonna die or not. He's still alive, and Benvolio and Rosalind are trying to save him. They like kind of escort him to the palace. And Paris waits on just outside the border with his army ready to attack. And that's it. because then it got canceled. Thoughts? I don't know if this was a 7 week miniseries or if they cut it right in the middle of the season. If they cut it right in the middle of the season, that aggravates me because, like, you already spent your money. You might as well, like, what else you gonna put in this slot? Like, reruns. I also heard that it aired during the summer, which sucked as well. Like, they didn't promote this at all. I'm finding out. Like, they didn't promote it at all. And it's like, why? Because it got cut right as it got good. I'll be honest, one through three were a little slow. If you had cut it then, I've been like, dang, another one lost. Even four is a little iffy for me, but I do like Benvolio begging Rosalind to come with him. Like, he's like, hey, I'm leaving. I will get no justice here, but what I want, emphasis on want. Like, maybe it's just his accent, but the want hit me so hard because he didn't emphasize it much. It was just like, but what I want is for you to come with me tonight, now. Like, and she's like, now? Now they call each other by their surnames, so Capulet and Montague. And so when they call each other Benvolio and Rosalind, you know there's a shift. And so she's like, why on earth? He's like, because I need you. I need you to do this for me. I need you to come with me, please. And she's so hesitant. She's like, Benvolio, she's like, you're all I have. You know the truth, for better or worse, we are betrothed, although my murdering, quote unquote, a Capulet might have ended that. You know the truth. You're my friend now. You are all that I have. I have nowhere else to go. Friar Lawrence wouldn't help him. He called the guards on him. Lady Fran sold him out. He thinking he can't go to Montague. Like, you're all I have. It's like, it was so, he was like, so will you come with me? Please. Rosalind. Like, that made up for it. But that made up for it. But 5 through 7 were good. Great even. Now my one tick about 6 is that it's a flashback, quote unquote, episode. So 5 ends with the guards catching up to them, and Rosalind giving herself up, and being taken to Paris. And then 6 starts off and she's taken to Paris, and then we rewind the clock and see everybody else's POVs and the whole kingdom thinking that she's been kidnapped and what it leads up to. And then towards like the last 10 minutes, we get back to present time where Rosalind and Paris are in the tent. Prince is on the way looking for her. Benvolio is coming after her. Like, we didn't need to do that. Honestly, we did not need to do that. I will acknowledge that we didn't need to do that because that could have been simultaneously happening in 5. Like, we didn't need to do that, but it was still a decent episode. And 7 left a lot to be anticipated. Paris is about to attack. We low-key get a semi-love confession from Benvolio and Rosalind, and even the prince, who I wasn't really rooting for. I wasn't really rooting for any of them because the prince's back and forth was too much. Even somewhat knowing his reasons, which honestly weren't fully clear, because, like, yeah, him and Rosalind have like this love affair. And so he's like, he chases after her in episode 1, right after they find out they're to be married. And he's like, oh, I would never do anything to make you uncomfortable, to put you in an awkward position, but you are. And then they kiss, and then he goes back to the throne room, and he low-key cocky with it. Maybe I'm misremembering, but he low-key cocky with, he like, yeah, the marriage will proceed. Um, like, even the knowledge of Romeo's body being hacked up and like that is now driving him, like, the whole, yeah, I'm gonna ruin you. Like, I just wouldn't ruin him. Honestly, I didn't want to root for him. He was low-key unlikable for me, but because we were focusing so much on Rosalind and the prince, it's like, is the still star-crossed between Rosalind and the prince or between Rosalind and Benvolio? Like, I wasn't, it wasn't really clear to me. But four sold it to me on Benvolio's half. 4 sold it to me. And then when they're on the run, we do get that um um bed scene in the inn. And now Benvolio was like, I'll take the floor, and she's like, oh yeah, you will. And we don't even see them like sleeping or resting or anything, but we do see Benvolio bathing and Miss Rosalind doing a little sneaky sneak, and it's like, oh, the tiny moments. They sold it to me. They sold it to me. I was Team Benvolio, but we were getting into the meat of that love triangle finally, and I was eager to see how it went. And also, this is something small, but I also liked how every episode, the episode titles were like Shakespearean coded. Every episode title was aligned from a different play, and I just think those little nods are really cool. I like that. Now, as to the costumes, which were a bit of an issue for people, I don't care. I cannot stress enough. I don't care. People do this all the time with Bridgerton, and this is something I meant to bring up last week, so pardon me for backtracking real quick. But the makeup, it's so modern. I don't care. I don't care. Even though I didn't enjoy the story this season, I don't care. I was more focused on the fact that we had suddenly washed away Benedict's artistic storyline. Don't know, we didn't care about that no more. We didn't care about, like, I don't care about makeup. I don't care about clothes. If the story is selling to me, or if I have a piece of a story to go off of, I don't care. People did the same thing with Rain. I mean, it's like, yes, try to have a little bit of accuracy in the clothing because clothing tells a story, but also you should expect that from these kinds of stories. Like, literally, this is an adaptation of a YA novel of the same name, Bridgerton. This is a universe where Pitbull and Mozart coexist. Miss Queen had a whole swan, battery operated swan in her hair. Like, they're not trying to be historically accurate. And honestly, that's okay. Even with Rain, the clothes in Rain, they were selling those clothes. So I didn't care. Like, there was a time in Rain, it was earlier on. It was either Francis or Henry, or maybe both of them, had on a modern day looking sweater, and I was 13 at this time. So I was like, that looks awfully modern. But that was 13-year-old me. Now me, I didn't think anything of it because I was like, maybe I'm tripping. But now me is like, I definitely don't care because Francis has finally gotten over his forbidden fruit soapbox and he kissed Mary. They had their first kiss. That is what I care for. The story. Honestly, if the story is good enough, you could be in a crop top and a maxi skirt, and I would not care. I would still be sad. Like, yes, at least try for some accuracy. Clothing tells a story, but that's not the end all for me. If the story is good and pulling me in and I'm invested in the characters, I can live with a little bit of inaccuracy. I really can. Also, the fact that they're not trying to be accurate. Also, I think the diversity through people, because it wasn't like Bridgerton diverse, where it's like we have disabled, we have Indians, I'm sorry, um, South Asians, but Indian representation. Um, we have like black people, all these families. It was more like Cinderella type, Rogers and Hammerstein, Cinderella, Hammerstein type uh, diversity. Gosh, my words. Where it's like a black mom and a white dad make a Filipino child. Like, Prince's dad is black, and the prince is black, and then the daughter is like South Asian looking, and Capulets. Uh, it's that kind of diverse mixing, and I think people were like, "Oh, it's Shakespeare. There are no black POC people unless they're Moors or whatnot." And like, literally, I cannot stress enough, y'all don't want real deal Shakespearean accuracy. You don't. You do not want real deal Shakespearean dramatization. Like, you don't. Also, would it not be boring to get the same thing like over and over, just told by different people? Hey, we're gonna do this same story with the same characters. Everyone looks the same end goal, same thing. We're just making it in a modern time. And then 2 years ago, 2 years later, we'll do the same thing, same concept, same language. Like, that ain't boring to y'all. Let people have fun. This is the only time you hear me say, let people have fun. Shake it up. Like, I'm sorry. Y'all just hate fun because this story was on to something. It was on to something. If I said this story walked, this adaptation walked so that Bridgerton could run, then what? I think another problem was that ABC just didn't. I guess it was really expensive. They were shooting on location in Spain, and then the clothing, which I think was actually a little somewhat accurate, and so the makeup and hair, all of that was just expensive. They didn't want to pay that. Also, they had not been advertising as much, and you should have paid that. You should have paid that. Furthermore, honestly, I personally maybe don't even think it should have been on ABC. Maybe somewhere where network viewership rules don't apply. Because honestly, we could have stood to see a little bit more nudity, a little bit more nudity, a little bit more sex, a little bit more gore and blood. I think. I really think we could have. So maybe not a network station. And also, I feel like 13 episodes. I think this was a victim to like short seasons, and short seasons are not new. I think Scandal had like season 1 had like 7 episodes. Um they're not new, they're just normalized now, which I hate. but I think it's just a short season and it was not promoted as it should have been. And it's like if you don't promote it, how you think you're gonna get at least somewhat of your money back? Like it just wasn't promoted. But this story was on to something. Run it back. Run it back. Rewrite the stars. Same cast or different cast, but pick it up right where you left off and then hop into like a 13 episode format. If you have to do a shorter season, I will swear by 13 episodes. I feel like you can tell a well thought out, well composed story at the shortest with 13 episodes. I truly feel like, because a lot of this was 7 episodes, and so it was like a lot of stuff was fast paced. We could have drawn out a little bit more Prince and Rosalind to maybe make it more understandable. Benvolio and Rosalind, their friendship, which was supposed to be like when she ran with him, and we could have drawn that out a little bit more. And then their kiss, we could have drawn that out a little bit more. Like their kiss, it was so cute. It was so cute. Also, another cute moment is when like Prince gets shot and Rosalind. This is why I feel like she should have been closer, like at the stage or closer to it, because she is just running through this crowd, this chaos to get to Prince, and it's like he could have been dead by then. But she gets there and she's like, we have to help him, and Benvolio is like, we have to leave now, and she's like, I'm not leaving here without him, and he's like, I'm not leaving here without you, like sold it to me. And then, like I said, when she went along with Paris's lies, he's gagged. He is gagged, and his eyes are screaming, "Why are you lying? Why are you not telling the truth? I thought we had something." Like she know how to pick a man. She definitely sold me in favor of Benvolio. Honestly, bring these two actors back and put them in the Bridgerton universe. They don't have to be a main couple, but let's just real quick see them kikiing and lovey dovey, and maybe a reference to like how Shakespeare is like their favorite, like same cast, different cast. I don't know, but pick it up or right where you left off. Like I need to know. Unfortunately, I probably won't because this was 2017. People have moved on. Um, so it's up to me to go to AO3 to write the rest. I'm sure I could find others who've written it good, but I have ideas and I want to write. So catch me on AL3. 7.5 out of 10. Like I really enjoyed this. I hate that I was so late to the party. I enjoyed this and I wish that it had not gotten canceled. Like if you didn't think that you could afford it, you should have passed it on to one of your like partners. Like this concept was onto something. With that said, I don't know if I'd read the book though. Not anything wrong with the book. It's just I'm 85% confident that if I like the Shondaland adaptation, I probably won't like the actual content. Not to say it's bad, but I want to see what this story goes, where this story goes. 7.5 out of 10. With that, let us quickly get into our last segment, book aggravations, where I give my commentary on a book aggravation I have. Today's aggravation: blood relations as obstacles. Where you make obstacles between two main characters to keep them from getting together, and so you decide, hey, let's make them siblings or cousins or relatives of some kind. And I'm not talking about a certain story. I haven't even read that story, so I'm not talking about a certain story. This came about because I saw a video of someone talking about that trope, and maybe it was from that story. I don't know, but I'm not talking about that story. But like you could pick any obstacle that they have to overcome. Feuding families, that's always a good one. Enemies to lovers, feuding clans, or miscommunication, even a miscommunication, or a rivalry, anything, and you choose to make them DNA related or a fake out. Even as a fake out, it's like, what's wrong with you? Like, Ruby Red, that's one of my favorite trilogies, but like the two characters find out that they are distant, like cousins of some kind, like twice removed, fourth removed, I don't know, but like there's relation down the road, and it's like, and then they don't do anything about that. That's just how it is, and it's like we're so far off from being actually related that it's okay. Like you could have done anything. You could have done anything. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Like I don't understand. Like you could have done it. I think I hate that trope more than step siblings, because even though, especially since if step siblings you're raised as siblings, since children rather you're raised as siblings, that's still gross to me. But it's like at least you share no blood. I hate that more than that trope, and I hate it more than Older dad, older best friend trope. Why would you make them related? That's you therapy. Therapy. Put your pen down. You don't need to be a writer. You don't need to be a writer. That is a quick book aggravation, and that is Kaya's commentary. If you like this episode, hit the thumbs up. Leave comments down below. Let me know any of your thoughts and opinions on any of the segments that I had. Be respectful. We can have a conversation with one another, but only if we are respectful. Don't forget to follow me on all my socials. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. See you next time.